Hey Artnerds! So in our last few tutorials, we really explored how to draw animals from really rough sort of exploratory sketches where we're just finding the major forms and the volume of the animal to more in-depth studies where we're taking a look at the skeleton and how to develop a posable mannequin figure that can be used to help you develop, let me see if I can find it, I know it's in here, but that can be used to help you develop a 3D volumetric form. And then in another video, we went over how to actually create this 3D volumetric form for several different animals, from a cat to a dog to a bear to a horse. So in today's video, we're going to take what we've learned and, drawing from reference, we're going to draw several animals. This time though, we're not going to be using these printouts as a guide. We're just going to be doing it straight in our sketchbook. So this is kind of more like actual application. And I have a bear, I have lions, I have horses, and I think I have one more animal, maybe not, that I want to draw with you guys today. We're going to do several different poses, and we're going to rely on some of the resources we've created, like our bear pose figure here, to kind of help us out along the way. So I want to get started with the bear for you guys, and we're going to start by sketching in the pose figure, the pose mannequin, using the red pencil, and then we're going to go over it with the blue for volumetric. So grab your sketchbook, grab your pencils, and let's go ahead and get cracking. So you guys saw the reference that I selected for this particular bear drawing. I'm going to include the reference for all of our drawings for this. I'm going to start with a line of action because, don't want to stay in my holder. Okay, fine. We're going to start with a line of action since this bear is standing. Then we're going to, I'm actually going to kind of switch the script just a little bit, since I'm drawing what I see, and I'm going to start by kind of blocking in the torso, very similarly to how I block in human torsos since we have a standing animal. Now, I need to keep in mind for myself more than for y'all that we're drawing a bear, not a human. So that's the neck, and then the shoulder blades, which we found out are kind of important to draw with several animals because they're actually visible. And what I'm doing is I'm just sketching everything really lightly, and I'm working in color pencil because it prevents me from being able to easily erase things. And that's important to me because, as we talked about in some of our prior videos, repetition, redrawing things and making corrections by redrawing is important. It's a good way to develop your skills. So what I'd like in the future, because I'm kind of struggling with certain parts of this bear's anatomy, is what I should do is I should do some more skeletal studies of the bear skeleton in different poses to help me really understand what's going on. And then we determined it looks like his collarbone is pretty close, and then his forelimbs come in from there, which kind of meshes with what we're seeing in our reference. And I hope these videos have encouraged and inspired you guys to do more drawing on your own, to take some more risks. So I'm going to sketch in kind of a spherical shape because even though the skull of the bear is fairly compact, and sadly you can see this with photos of emaciated, underfed, starving bears, which when I googled bear, unfortunately that popped up a lot because it's been in the news. It's very unfortunate, and I hate to see animals treated like that. However, it does give us a good view of the animal's body without the necessary fat, and these animals do need a lot of fat to live. So it does give you a better view of what the animal's head actually looks like. But I think I'll need to donate some money to an animal rescue. And it tends to be like these zoo animals too. It's just so sad. I don't think there's any good reason for that. So as you guys can see in the reference, his muzzle is open. And I'm glad I have reference here because I am so not familiar with drawing bears. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to volumetrically draw, sketch out what I actually see because his mouth is open. So with a human, we usually will, there's a common sort of little mind trick you can do, a memory trick, where it's like a tin can that's been cut in half is the open human mouth, because that's how our skin kind of wraps around our face at our mouth. Almost said muzzle. I've been drawing too many animals. So it's about, for me, it's a lot about finding these kind of reference viewpoints on the animals that we're drawing as well. So, okay, I've got my basic stick figure form. Now to start kind of refining it, we're gonna start, I think, with the neck. And this is my warm-up for today. This is the first thing I've drawn. So as this video progresses, you'll see that the art will probably improve. And part of that is just kind of finding my ground, figuring things out, and part of it is also actually warming my hand up for the day. And I'm recording this tutorial because I am teaching a class on drawing animals for 10 and 11-year-olds, and I wanted to get some more practice. Wow, that's a very happy bear mouth. That is not a snarling bear. That's like, hey guys, I got you the honey. Oh my gosh, it's Winnie the Pooh. Hey y'all. Anyway, I'm teaching an animal drawing class for my 10 and 11-year-olds. So I wanted to get some more practice drawing a variety. Wow, that is a happy bear. He's like singing now. I wanted to get some more practice drawing animals before I go in and teach the class. And it also gives me an opportunity to kind of figure out how I want to teach the class and like what exercises I want the kids to do, how I want to focus their time. And I think we're going to focus mainly on just drawing the major forms and not really diving in to breaking down and kind of understand. That is a happy bear. But you know what? I don't ever draw bears, so it's the best bear I've ever drawn. We're not going to spend as much time figuring out like the animal skeletal structure and kind of the volumetric forms for the animal. We're just going to focus on figuring out the major body masses, and I think that's going to be more accessible for them. That's one of the things that, as I teach younger artists, and younger artists, just like older artists, have a variety of skills. You know, I've had 11-year-olds in my class who watch a lot of YouTube, and they're very knowledgeable, they're very skilled already. And then I've had adults who, even though they have access to all these things, they don't realize they have access to those things, and they are still very much in the exploratory learning phase of their drawing. So I get all skill levels at all different ages, but one of the important things for me is to figure out where my students are skill-wise and then develop content, develop classes that'll cater to that and help them improve where they're at. And that's been a learning experience for me. And it's much easier when I'm teaching the same people over and over and over again, rather than trying to assess their skills in a single class and then trying to address, okay, so we've got the feet now, trying to address where they're at in a single class. That becomes very difficult. So I've really been enjoying my 8-week drawing class. And I enjoy coming up with lessons and content for them. I would assume the bear has some muscles here. It'd be interesting to study the musculature and the fat distribution. This bear is way too happy. Like, I'm not going to redraw him because I kind of like my happy bear. But this bear is way too happy. He's like a little sumo dude. So I'm just kind of refining the forms. kind of sketching in loosely some fur and the claws. Okay, so we have bear numero uno. We have another bear. Okay, so you guys can see from the reference that was on the screen. I'm gonna rotate our view a little bit, make best use of my sketchbook. And we've got a bear who's down on all fours and growling, roaring, bearing. What do we call that? Scary, terrifying noise that bears when they're making a loud noise. Grunting, bearifying. Yeah, we're gonna go with bearifying. The bear is bearifying. It's a bearifying bear. I like all animals, but I have a healthy respect for big, terrifying megafauna that would happily, if hungry or if felt threatened, rip me apart. And then I'm going to sketch in the major form. That's too far back. Just to kind of help me place everything, because this is still an exploring exercise for me. And then our bear skeleton reference doesn't provide a good side view. So I'm going to extrapolate and assume that the pelvis is like this, because that's how it is with humans, and not that every mammal is exactly like humans, but there are some similarities. And then they also have knees that bend forward like humans. So, you know, maybe that's a safe extrapolation to make. This is definitely an area where I need to do more research, especially if I were going to be drawing like a lot of bears, a barricade of bears. Okay, so in this view, we can't really see the shoulder blades, but I know they're there. And then I'll sketch in the head just lightly for now. And then it actually kind of looks like his front paw is raised here. And then and he's standing in grass, so I can't really see what's going on with his paws. And I'm not comfortable enough drawing this animal to really want to take a guess. And then, why did I pick so many bears with their mouths open? I must have wanted to level up. That's the reason. I was like, girl, you need to challenge yourself today. You need to draw some. It's actually because I figured it'd be more interesting for y'all. However, let's go with the girl, you need to challenge yourself today. You've been drawing a lot of safe stuff. We gotta level that up. We gotta improve. Okay, so in our last bear, we kind of drew this box. It's like a weird pyramid that never comes to a point, just to kind of help us block in the animal's muzzle, because that's an area I really struggle with. And I get requests to do anthro art tutorials on this channel. I don't have a problem with anthro art. I think it's cute. My anthro style is still very humanoid compared to like what I think some people would like to see more of, which is more animalistic, more like Lion King kind of animals, rather than like, you know, Nekomimi, people with animal ears. That's just people with cat ears is Nekomimi, but you guys know what I mean. So obviously I think I am pretty far away from being able to offer such a tutorial confidently. This bear is not my best. However, I do, when y'all request things, and I know that's gotten really hard because we don't necessarily have comments anymore, and we don't necessarily have the community tab anymore, unfortunately. So you guys need to communicate with me. If you want to communicate with me via my Discord server, The Paintbox, or through Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup, or, there's that shoulder blade, or via Twitter or Instagram messages, although I really prefer Twitter over Instagram messages because I don't check my Instagram messages very often, so I miss a lot of them and then I feel guilty. So hit me up on Twitter. at Natosoup, Nattosoup. Anyway, even though I've lost a lot of my ways to communicate with you guys, I do listen to your requests. Like, I do consider them. They are important to me. Oh, wow. Okay. This rib cage. I'm going to switch back to red just to kind of fix it. This rib cage should be further. I drew it too small. And I'm choosing to do this as a live recording instead of recording my audio in post, partially so I can kind of walk you through things as I think of them instead of trying to remember them in post. That works okay for things I do all the time. Like, oh, look at this. Okay. Okay, this hump should be smaller, and it kind of connects with like the whole arm musculature, because you can see it a little bit in the definition of the fur. And then I need to bring this booty way in. I drew it way far back. But see, that's why we're doing this. And then the stomach, we're figuring out everything. We're exploring things. I could leave the legs where they are though, I think. So at this stage, we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna do things wrong. We're going to have to do more research. We're going to have to ask for critique from people who do know what they're doing, because this is a learning phase. This is an education phase. And even if you're teaching art, even if you have degrees in art, even if you have all these decades of experience, having people you can turn to for this sort of critique who can be like, girl, you drew that like all wrong, and then quickly redraw it, and you're just like, oh, you're so good at drawing animals. That's important. That's beneficial. And as a teacher, being able to go back and learn how to do things, especially the things your students are interested in, having the humility to say, hey, I'm not good at this. I need to learn how to do this for myself and for my students. That's really important. And YouTube and the internet make that feasible, so there's not a lot of good reasons not to avail yourself of the resources that are out there. Okay, so we've got 2 bears down. Let us... Do I have another bear? I have one more bear for you guys. And I'm just going to draw this bear's brother. You know, I'll move it this way. I want to get as much on my page as I can, because I tend to not be very economical with my paper, and that's not... So what I'm going to do, so I'm still figuring out a system for how I want to draw animals, how I want to handle their body masses, and how I want to draw their fat distribution and their differentiating traits. So I'm trying lots of different things out, and I'm just going to kind of see what sort of gels for me. And so another reason why we do multiples of these, the repetition kind of helps us figure out what we're doing, and we develop a system for doing it. But if a system stops working for you, you should abandon it if it doesn't work for you. Anything that doesn't serve you in art, and things can, it's like clothing, you know, like if it's cold outside, you put on a coat. With art, if you need another technique to get the job done, adopt that technique. So we have the rib cage. We're blocking in the head. And even though it seems like I'm redrawing things a lot, having kind of a basic understanding, a basic blueprint of the animal's musculature is actually really helpful. Yes, I could sketch the animal from reference without this, but having this as a baseline helps me be able to recreate it on my own. And what I would say is, before I would try to just invent a bear without any reference, I'd have to draw 100 bears over and over and over again. And I'd have to have a system that I think really works for me. And, you know, people don't like hearing that. The whole, like, I'd have to do it 100 times. Like, a lot of my younger students, they don't like hearing it. They want to be good now. And even a lot of adults don't like hearing, oh, this is going to take me a really long time. Because, like, to be good at any, yeah, you could do it passably, maybe the first time, if you're particularly talented and you've got some drawing experience and you're a really good study. Okay, I gotta be kind of quiet so I can finish this bear. And okay, this leg is going back. This one's going forward, and it seems to be bearing the weight, which makes sense because this leg is up. And then, okay, this bear actually has his mouth shut. But for somebody like me who is not talented, I've never really been like talented at drawing. I don't pick up on concepts very quickly. It takes me a really long time to master something. Interesting. So for me to do it confidently, I would have to do it over and over and over again. I'd have to do it hundreds of times. And I think I touch on that in my my Life with ADHD blog series from a couple years ago, where it takes me longer to learn things. So I have to do them multiple times. Okay, so we learned from this bear that we need to draw, and it makes sense, the shoulder blade connecting with that arm. It makes sense because they would be connected in life. And we can't really see the paws super well. But I present things to you guys the way I present them because I know there are a lot of people who would like to learn how to draw and have convinced themselves that they can't and that it's never going to happen for them. And oh well, and some of them will go to cons and then be snarky about it, and some of them will be sad and sweet about it. Like, I hear it a lot in a lot of different ways. And give me a sec, I want to try to draw the nose passably well. Okay, so this is wrong already because it should be breaking the plane of the face. So I thought I had some scrap paper lying around from my last video, but I guess I cleaned up. So I'm going to find a scrap piece of paper to put on top of this and make my corrections. But I show you guys how to do things the way I show you how to do them because I'm trying to reach the people. I'm not trying to reach the people who are already great artists and they don't need a lot. You guys have Alfonso done. You have Jeremy. You don't need me. I'm trying to reach people who are struggling with their art and they don't really know how to get started, and their art education, if they've been able to have any, has been patchy at best, and they don't know what books are any good, and they've bought a bunch of books but a lot of them are terrible, and they just feel kind of lost and they blame themselves. It's like, well, it's just because I'm a bad artist and I'll never be any good at all. That's the people I want to try and help the most. Or kids who are not just these like natural drawing whizzes and they aren't necessarily in talented art. Or if they are, their talented art teacher is maybe not providing their needs and not teaching them the basics that they need to know. So that's kind of, when I do drawing videos, that's kind of who I want to reach, are the people who don't get a whole lot. Okay. We're going to do the muzzle right this time. Or try. And it's not necessarily because I just lack all this confidence as an artist. You know, the confidence is something that a lot of us struggle with. It's not unique to me. It's just that I think there needs to be more for adults who want to learn how to draw and more for kids who don't have the access to resources, and more for teenagers who maybe their school doesn't have a good art program or any art program, or maybe the school has already decided that they're not worth the investment. Because that's what happened to me. And I'm not like, I don't mean it to be like super bitter or anything, but like, that doesn't determine your worth and it doesn't determine your future. talking through my thinking phase is not, I know it's not a good thing for me, and I don't draw bears often enough for me to be able to wing it. I also just want to like demystify it, if possible, show you guys how to go about. Man, I draw like the friendliest bears. I want to demystify it for you guys, make it accessible, make it something you feel like you can use in your own art. Like, even if you don't like how I'm drawing bears, right? You hate it, whatever. It's about like, oh, but the process she used to figure out how to draw bears, how to start learning how to draw on her own without someone else telling her how to do it. That's what I want you guys to take away. I want you guys to like learn how to develop your own processes and do your own study and be motivated. I see so many artists online who call themselves self-taught, and I don't like that term, because there's a difference between being self-motivated, self-driven, self-directed, where you're finding these existing resources online and you're motivating yourself. You don't have a class to hold you accountable. You don't have a teacher to hold you accountable. I have a lot of respect for people who have to do it that way or are doing it that way. I don't like self-taught because it implies that you made this stuff up on your own and you didn't use books. Ah, look, here's a mistake. Okay, this body is way too long. It needs to be much more compact. So where it really should be is probably around there. And I'm just gonna, I don't expect it to look good. I just want to learn from my mistakes. So self-taught implies you did it all on your own and you're not using resources. To me, someone who makes these resources, you can disagree. Whereas self-directed, self-driven implies that you are utilizing what's out there and you're making the most of it, but you don't have the benefit of having a teacher overlooking your work or a classroom setting, and you have to find your own time and your own motivation to do these things. So as somebody who makes these sort of resources to help other people, I like the term self-motivated, self-directed, self-schooled even, or school of internet is what I call it, over self-taught. So we've drawn 3 bears. Next up, we're going to do 3 lions. And I don't have any lion reference. I haven't done any lion skeletal studies, but I did do house cats. And lions and house cats, oh my, are not built quite the same, but I do think we can use this as a good basic reference, a good starting point for what we're going to do with the lion. So with our lion, we're going to start with the same lion I drew in the first tutorial in this series, where he's just kind of standing, and I did a terrible job with that lion. So I'm kind of hoping I can get some retribution. So we're going to start with a line of action for our lion. And man, this is a long dude. Looks to me like a long dude. And then I'm just going to kind of sketch in the basic shape. This is going to help me kind of figure out how to apply the cat's anatomy. So it looks like the rib cage ends here to the lion. So it looks like this guy has a long rib cage to the lion's anatomy. Anyway, I just want to reiterate one more time. I have no problem with people who are self-motivated, self-directed, who are learning on their own and are not taking classes. I would not be doing these videos. I wouldn't do the blog if I had a problem with you guys at all, because those are resources designed to help y'all. I have a problem with, okay, so he's facing front, and then this would be facing, so it's kind of trying to pop out on me. So I'm trying to figure out, because this is the front, right? This should be inverted. What could I do to invert that? I don't know. That one's gonna bother me. Okay, anyway, rib cage. And then with small cats, we have the neck opening would be around here, and the collarbone would be around here. And then the shoulder blades, which I don't think we see so much in this view, would be around here. And then I may run out of space for his neck, which would be unfortunate. Right here, and then he's got kind of a, let's start him with like the cat shape we decided on for cats. And I can refine it later, because I don't think it's really one for one. Like cats have kind of short faces, whereas lions and other big cats have kind of long faces with long muzzles, and that gives them more. It's like with bloodhounds having those long noses. It's more area for their smell receptors to pick up scents. So, and to harp on an old harp, all of us have to be self-driven, self-motivated. Like there's absolutely, okay, so he's actually on an incline. There's absolutely no shame in that. It doesn't make you any less. There we go. Now I figured out how to invert it. I don't know why it's giving me so much trouble. I ought to do a lion skeleton though, because I really feel like I need more help with that. I don't know why I didn't draw that back leg. There we go. And then it's got kind of longer back legs. And then so the thing about doing the skeletal form is that when you're first starting it out, it may actually look better if you just do the volume at like sketching the major forms and then refining. So I am aware of that possibility. And then his mane covers everything. So his neck probably goes to here. It'd be more helpful looking at a female lion. I don't know why I picked all male lions, other than I googled lion and I just grabbed. And this is another animal where like half the images for them are these sad emaciated lions, and then half the headlines are like such and such a lion died at blah 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 zoo due to underfeeding. And I'm just like, what is wrong with people? Why are you torturing these animals and not feeding them enough? And then they have these kind of grumpus faces. And then this little guy has like a chinny chin chin. This is not going to be a good lion. It's okay. And his ears would be up here somewhere, and the bottom of his face would be down there. He's got this very 80s anime shock of hair with like mutton. He's like an 80s anime boyfriend. Like he looks like a Ronin warrior kind of. It's that kabuki look. That's probably why. And then this, I think I probably drew his head too big. Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that head. That head's way too big compared to the rest of his body. Wow. So that's something, as I do subsequent studies, I need to pay attention to and I need to work on. And I apologize. I know this video is going to be super long. Just kind of tying it all together and just talking about a lot of things. Wow, I drew his leggies so thin. Just kind of talking about a lot of things as well. Ooh, this is a bad lion. Oh my gosh. Generally, I would say redraw him, or I would redraw him, but we are already going to be into the, well, into the 9th inning. We're like in the 7th inning right now, and we still got a lot of game to play. So, today, I'm just going to have to live with this lion being a not well drawn. I did not get retribution. I failed at retribution today. That happens. It's life. Oh, it's a bad lion. Okay, that's okay. We're going to move on to our next lion. So you guys can see from our lion reference that this big boy, this buddy, let's flip it. He's lying down. Come on. I guess my camera won't laugh. Let's try another approach for him. So let's go with sketching and placing the major forms. And this is going to help us kind of capture what we actually see. And then let's try to break it down volumetrically. This is what I mean earlier about having multiple tools in your toolkit. And just rotating them out as you need them. So I drew his buddy. I drew his brother. So that one was, I guess, Mufasa, and I guess this one is like the young male love interest from the second Lion King that wants to be Romeo and Juliet, and I can't remember his name, but I know you guys know. And y'all are probably screaming because I'm pretty sure this video doesn't have comments because it's COPPA compliant, because I recognize that kiddos are probably also watching this, along with adults who are like, I want to learn how to draw. So we're going to go with kind of, because he's got kind of a hexagonal face shape. And then he's got long, sad muzzle, kind of like a dog. So maybe if we approach it using what we learned from drawing the dogs. Okay, and then I would know his rib cage. Hey, that mane is really tricking me. It really bulks up his shape, which is probably on purpose to make him more intimidating. But it definitely makes it harder for me to do my job, Mr. Lion. Why you gotta have such a glorious mane? So I'm guessing that other lion was pretty skinny. And then he is in the loaf position. His pelvis would be here. His backbone would be here. His tail's curled around. His legs are under him. So something like this. And then up here, we have his collarbone, and then it would go out like that. Go out like that. Go out like that. Same kind of deal. Okay, so we've got our basic sketch. Still learning about lions. Maybe I should have picked a non-maned major feline. I'm drawing with the tiniest nubbin of a pencil, which is not helping. Oh, he's got cheekbones, Mr. Lion. And then actually what's nice about this image, other than his mane obscuring like half his body and making it hard to see what I'm doing, is he actually has really nice shading on his face, which makes it really easy to see. Ooh, I drew that nose all funky. That's okay. So this is at the point where I would tell you guys, also if you're ooh, I don't like it. If you're learning how to draw something and you're kind of struggling to find your style or figuring out more realistically, figuring out how to cartoon animals, right? Now, after you've done a bunch of studies and you're still struggling, as I am, now would be a good time to look at how other artists you admire handle the exact same subject matter you're trying. He does have these like cute curled in teddy bears. Handle how to draw the same subject matter you're trying to draw. Okay, so his mane. He's got quite a mane. It's like a Tim Curry lion, but not Scar. Like a Rocky Horror kind of fabulous lion. And practice doing style studies. Maybe try to break down what they're doing in their drawings and figure out why they're stylizing what they're stylizing and how they're figuring it out. Some of them might even have YouTube channels or Twitters where they share process art, and that can be a really good way to kind of figure out how they're doing what they're doing. This lion looks like he's had a blowout. Somebody went in and very carefully styled his mane. So with a male lion, for example, you might want to make certain things way more angular than you would with a female lion, because you might want to do this to kind of show like fierceness and how they're independent and they have to kind of travel on their own, whereas female lions are more communal. I don't know. The visual language you choose to ascribe to your lion and what it represents in your story is entirely up to you, but looking at how other people handle the same subject matter can be a really good way to kind of figure out how you want to address your subject matter. Okay, I only have like 98 more lines to go until I'm great at drawing lions. I think one of the reasons, and this is, I'm from a different generation, so that could be maybe I don't understand, and I'd love it if one of you guys fill me in over on the paint box. But I think one of the reasons some of my younger friends, some of my younger students don't want to have to do so much repetition is because I think some of them want to start making money from art as, ooh, that's going to overlap. What am I going to do about that? They want to start making money from art as soon as possible. And of course, when you're spending a lot of time practicing and drawing and you're doing a lot of stuff that isn't like drawing OCs or commissions or saleable art, right? Like, it's hard sometimes to justify putting that time in because it's like, well, I could draw 100 lions and get okay at drawing lions, or I could draw people's custom OCs and make money right now. And I definitely do, I do get that. I understand that appeal. For me, when I was younger, it wasn't about doing commissions because in 2000, it's not like you could do coffee commissions or PayPal commissions or Fiverr commissions. None of those things were things. So for me, it was like, I just want to draw comics and I'll just learn things as I need them. And, oh, you know, I just won't ever do a comic that features these animals because I'm terrible at drawing these animals. I'll only draw animals I'm comfortable with drawing. Or, you know, I'll do a comic and I'll just never draw cars because I'm really uncomfortable drawing cars and I don't really understand how to draw cars, so I won't. And that was me when I was younger, and I feel like that mindset really hindered me. Like, I didn't even bother to learn how to draw people, how to draw like basic anatomy, like what I do on this channel, all the time until I was like 22, 23, because I had this art style that I just always drew the same way. So I couldn't draw anything else unless I was copying it, and I didn't have any real flexibility in how I drew, and it took me forever to draw things because I'd have to erase and redraw and erase and redraw and erase and redraw. And I wish I had put that time when I was younger, when I had more free time. I wish I'd put that time in to learning just how to draw, how to do volumetric construction. So like the art books I had access to, my library didn't really have art books at the time. They certainly didn't have like Loomis or the Famous Artist Course or any of the stuff I would consider to be really good art books. So I got a lot of like $5 art books from Barnes and Noble, and I have a few of them still, not because they're good, but just because they cover everything very briefly, very glancingly. So I didn't, they'd like mention volumetric perspective, but they wouldn't really, they would do like a still life example with like a cup and maybe a ball and a vase, right? And it was always the same still life example. So I didn't really understand how that could be applied to animals, or how that could be applied to plants, or how that could be applied to people. And it's the method I teach, and it's the method I use the most often. And the books were so bad at explaining why it was important that I completely blew it off. So one of the reasons I really harp on some of the things I harp on is I sincerely feel from the bottom of my heart, let's not even talk about ages, let's just talk about time. So I started drawing when I was 13, I'm 33 now, that's 20 years. I didn't get serious, I didn't get access to good art supplies, or to good books, or to things on the internet that would have been beneficial to me, because when I was younger the internet didn't have those things, YouTube wasn't a thing. I've only had access to good things, like good food, good nutrition, except for art, for 10 years. So let's say 10 years. If you put in every day what I'm recommending you put in 10 years from now, you are going to be so much better than I am. You're going to be so much than I am right now, because I'm going to keep fighting too. I'm going to put that time in every day for 10 years also. Don't think I'm standing still. This is a shonen fight, dang it, and you're my rival, dang it, and we're going to work together, and it's going to be Nakama, and we're going to grow. And I'm stalling because I got to sharpen this into the pencil. If you put 10 minutes, if you put an hour in every day drawing stuff you don't like to draw, breaking it down, understanding it, drawing things that you weren't commissioned to draw, or they're not in your comic, but they might be someday, or you might one day like to do commissions like that, just for flexibility's sake, you're going to be so much better than me. It's like a diet of just candy versus like a diet that has grains and has proteins and has what you need to actually fuel yourself, right? Like, yes, you'll get full on candy, but you'll get sick and you'll get weak. Whereas if you're eating a balanced diet, you're going to be strong and you're going to be able to do a lot of different things. So think of it like your diet. I talk about it like eating vegetables. I like vegetables, but sometimes it's an acquired taste, and you have to build yourself up to liking vegetables. Actually, I could sharpen. Well, I talk. I could have been doing that the whole time, y'all. But, so it's like eating vegetables. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be doing it, and the more you'll enjoy doing it, and the less of like a horrible burdensome chore, and it'll be something you kind of look forward to and you like doing, and you'll like the art that you make from it. You'll be proud of it because it's not just what you always draw. You'll surprise yourself, and surprising yourself in art is amazing. When you surprise yourself in a good way, when you make a breakthrough, it feels amazing. You feel powerful. You feel invigorated. You feel like you could take on the world. So, I don't know. That's just my advice. I'm fighting too. I'm fighting as earnestly as I know how to fight. And maybe I'm not always the best at fighting, but I use what I have. And I love these pencils because they allow me to do these really great demonstration drawings for you guys, but they are a pain in the booty to sharpen. But unlike Prismacolor, they don't snap constantly. And these are just like Charles Leonard correctional pencils I got off of Amazon. So they're not even special pencils, but I use them a lot, especially for stuff like this, like class materials. As you can see, they take forever to sharpen though. If I'd been lecturing you guys and sharpening it, we would be halfway there. It's also important not to take yourself too seriously. Like, you should definitely treat yourself with respect and trust yourself, but, you know, don't take yourself too seriously. Okay, that only took 6 years. Could have done the whole lion in red by the time it took me to... And I don't like mechanical, I mean, electric sharpeners either, because they eat the pencils. And I know some folks are like super insistent. Ugh, that really wore out my hand. Super insistent on like using a knife for that. And yeah, I mean, you guys who've watched my channel long enough and you've seen some of my like subscription box unboxings when they're like, sharpen this with a knife. You guys have seen how bad that turns out. So we're not going to do that. And then he's got like these little, like that. And he's got kind of a heart shape to his head. He's a cute boy. But I hope you guys can also kind of see like my lions are starting to improve as I go, even though I'm still nattering on the whole time, which makes it harder for me to draw well. But if I was going to be completely silent, then I would just time lapse it for y'all. I also think it's important to do things in real time sometimes for y'all, because one of the things I hear a lot from younger people who I know learned how to do what they know how to do, actually that's this way, from just the internet, is constantly, I draw too slow. And it's because when we ferret out the reason, because I usually ask them a few questions to kind of figure out, you know, like, well, why do you think you draw slow? And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm comparing myself to my friends in real time. It's, oh, because people on YouTube draw really, really fast. Well, who do you watch? Blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, I go to look at their channels and it's like, they do a lot of stuff in time lapse, which there's nothing wrong with that. I do a lot of stuff in time lapse too. YouTube prioritizes videos that are a certain length and it's like, ah, his head's too high up. These should be more into his body than they are. So this should all be compressed. So this is going to be a giraffe neck lion. Maybe I can hide that with some more mane. But they're seeing this time-lapse art and they're thinking this is how fast I should be drawing, because they don't necessarily know, because it's not time-lapse like so quick that you know it's time-lapse. It's time-lapse like ×1, so it just looks like somebody's really speedy and confident in what they're doing. And then the person who's recording it is probably pausing the video every time they're erasing, or they may even cut that out, you know, just partially for time constraint, and also like nobody wants to just watch you erase. So unfortunately, these people, these younger people who don't necessarily have a lot of experience, they think they're not good enough, they think they're not fast enough because they're watching videos that are time-lapse. They don't know they're time-lapse. The person who is recording them doesn't think they have to disclose that. I mean, they don't. Like, you don't have to, but I think they think their audience can figure it out, and some can, obviously, and some don't have enough experience yet to know. And then I see these younger or less experienced artists beating themselves up because they aren't as fast as their favorite YouTuber. Look, your favorite YouTuber isn't that fast either, I promise. Okay, so... So we're done. We only have 97 more lions to go. Now we're moving on to horses. And horses are quite timely because, hey, I'm feeling a little horse myself. Actually, though, I am going to drink like a giant glass of water when I finish recording this. Okay, so we've actually done a bit with horses. We have a couple of skeletal structures, which this is going to be my main reference. And then in our last video, we fleshed this one out volumetrically. So this is an animal we have a little bit more practice with. And I try to avoid doing animals like cats and dogs that I draw a lot, or like small mammals because I draw those a lot for Kara. So I tried to go with something that would be familiar, that you guys would be interested in, but is a bit more of a challenge for me. It's not something I normally do. And I talk a lot, so you guys know, or you guys can guess, I don't stop my students from talking either. oh, okay. Actually, he might just fit. That was something I should have checked before. That's another common problem, as a lot of my students will find that they're always drawing off the paper, and when you block things in first, using the skeletal form or using basic like 2D shapes to block things in, you can figure out how much page you have before you've made this huge time commitment to drawing it, and that way you can either redraw it or you can flip over to the next page. And if you're one of those people who you drew a really good pose but you can't get it all on and your memory is not great, what I do is I take a photo of it and send it to myself on Discord so I can pull it up on my screen so I can reference my sketch when I redraw it at a better size. So this is the neck hole. This is the collarbone. I don't know why I put that in air quotes. And then we're gonna look at our reference to see that the shoulder blades go up like little Pegasus wings. And then they've got, this one here has this like dorsal hump of cartilage, not cartilage, vertebrae. And then his neck is curved, but it's this, actually it's much shorter than what I drew. Let me just sketch the basic form in first, and then we'll break it down volumetrically a little bit so you guys can kind of see it. And then we'll sketch in the head as well. And I've been doing these animal drawing videos, and I've been doing these animal warm-ups for about a week now. But something else I'm doing when I can, when I have the energy, is I'm still doing my human warm-ups off camera. Because I'm working on a different skill set with those. So with this, I'm just kind of still, I'm very much still learning how to draw animals. It's not something I do often enough, so it's something I'm gonna, to improve at, I'm gonna have to invest this time to do it. So, but with people, I draw them all the time. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to hone how I draw joints, hone how I draw muscle, hone how I draw fat, and just kind of get more elegant figures and also different poses, like more casual, natural poses, so that when I'm drawing my comic, it's easier to draw and it looks better and I have more inspiration. Because when you draw, you're building a library of images and concepts and ideas. Like when you draw from reference, you're not just drawing from reference, you're also building up this mental library that you can use later on. Okay, so we've got our basic sketch. Let's volumize this animal. And something that can be useful, I think I mentioned it in one of the other videos, is having little like figurines. So for the parents in the audience, you guys, kids might have like animal figurines, like zoo figurines or horse figurines, whatever, stuff like that. Those were really helpful practice reference that you can kind of physically manipulate and turn in 360 different degrees and practice drawing from crazy angles. And those kind of things are really cheap. I would have some here. And certainly if I had like a dedicated classroom of my own, I would have that. But I am moving, so I'm trying to get rid of things and not acquire things until after I've moved. So even though that's something I think is beneficial and I would recommend if you have the space, it's not something I can justify having. And some of us really do better having like a 3D physical object that we can hold in our hands and manipulate. And some people do better from having like a virtual 3D object that they can rotate on the screen and reference. So I think probably SketchUp might have some good 3D rotatable assets that you guys could check out. I think part of what makes some animals easier than others, yeah, I do have a little more practice with drawing the horse than I did with, I mean, I drew the bear as much as I drew the horse. But I mentioned in another video that when I was a little girl, my dad he had property in this rural area that had been in his family for a while, and it used to be a farm, and he would rent it out when I was a kid, and one of the renters had horses, and part of the deal was that they would give me riding lessons, and it's not, like I said in another video, not like fancy riding lessons, okay? These were work animals. I basically learned how to ride a horse without a saddle, how to ride with a saddle, just like basic farm animal riding, not anything fancy. And I spent a lot of time just like hanging out with the horses and the cattle and feeding them. So I think like just I haven't like been around horses in a really long time. Even when I was at SCAD, I kind of thought about joining the riding team, and then I found out it was basically Pretty Pretty Princess with their ponies, and I was just like, never mind. So I did not join it because that was not something I was interested in. And they thought it was really weird that Sequel wanted to go and draw their horses. They couldn't understand that, and it's like, this is an art school. That should not be a foreign concept. All right, so we've got a decent horse here. Let's draw another one. All right, now we have a galloping horse, which is, I'm going to turn this around a Rooney, and this one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because I have drawn lots of reared up horses. I haven't drawn so many horizontal oriented horses. So this will be fun. I mean that too. Art challenges, challenging myself, that's fun. And the more you challenge yourself, the more you're going to see it as fun, because you're going to get these moments where you surprise yourself, and that's what it's all worth, makes it all worth it. I may have drawn his butt a little bit. I don't know. So what are your favorite animals to draw? What are animals that secretly you would really like to be able to draw them, but they're really challenging and you don't know how to go about figuring out how to draw them? I think dogs. Dogs and cats for me. I want to draw really cute dogs and cats, and this is a secret between us in this video. Pancake has a set design, but I wish his design was more, it's too cartoony. I wish it was had more personality like the original design for Pancake did, and it got kind of homogenized with repeated drawing. So being able to draw like good dogs and cats that have like a lot of personality, and they look like a specific breed, and they also look like a specific animal, like a specific pet, that's kind of like my goal, because I draw a lot of house animals. I would also like to draw reptiles better, and that's something, like, I haven't drawn a lot of them for this, and that's something I should improve on, because when I was younger, my first dream was to be a naturalist. I wanted to go live in the Amazon and study poison dart tree frogs. And I still really love reptiles and amphibians a lot. So you would think I would spend more time drawing them and practicing them than I actually do. And even in 7-inch Kara, she has a pet gecko, Dusty. Who's a little house gecko. And like, I don't draw him as well as I would like. And with like Lilliputian Living, my yearly inked challenges, I draw a lot of insects and I try to draw a lot of reptiles and amphibians, but I don't draw as many as I really should. So that's an area I'd like to improve on. I like I'm drawing horses and talking about drawing reptiles and amphibians. So that tells me I should do either study it on my own, or I should do some videos where we practice together. Oh yeah, I gotta draw those shoulder blades because I can kind of see them, so they're important. They're almost like little Pegasus wings coming out of his back. That tells me I should spend some more time drawing those animals because they're animals that I care about. I think I drew this animal too long. I don't know what is with my fascination with drawing animals way too long. I may not fully be understanding the perspective that's going on. That could be the problem. So just to show you guys what we're dealing with here, because I've been shorthanding my cylinders. And this is why we are on our final animal for today, our final horse. And look at this. So this is our reference horse that is more horizontal, more stationary, kind of like the horse in our picture. And I want to just show you guys, like, that body is much shorter than what I was drawing. I was heavily, when I'm drawing these horses, I've been heavily referencing this one, which makes the body look much longer than it probably is. It could have been this particular horse, might have just been a long horse, or the perspective on it might have been tricking my eye. But this is really more accurate to what I should be drawing for a horse. Horses are just kind of like tall dogs, right? So this one, also, I've also been picking photos that are just slightly in perspective, but not really that, like, skewed. So I've been tricking myself. Let's see if I can do this horse, this final horse, correctly. This is a good horse. Like, a good horse. It's like a noble steed. I don't know. It just looks like a friendly horse. He's doing paw. To be fair, I've never known a not friendly horse. As a kid, I learned that sugar cubes will make... I've known nippy horses, but I've never, like, been kicked by a horse or anything like that. Usually, I guess because I would, like, feed the horses a lot as a kid. So they were pretty familiar with me. I don't know. Or I was lucky. I will not pretend to understand the ways and wherewithals of horses, as I am not a horse girl. Oh man, I love it. He's got, like, leggy out. Or she, leggy out. Wow, when I sketch it like this horse really looks like just like a tall dog, like a Great Dane. And I'm sure all the horse people in the audience are like salty that there's no comments on this video, because they'd like to tell me what all the official names for all the official horse parts are. Okay, so this horse is standing, which means I cannot see what's going on. That's okay. We got it. We got it enough. Like the flanks and the withers. But put that energy to drawing horses. I'm just a fool of a woman. Fool of a toque on the internet. who does not know much about horses, really. But does at least know a thing or two about volumetric drawing and how to kind of figure out how to learn how to draw anything I want to learn how to draw. And I think that's a pretty good skill to have. Knowing how to break things down. Oh my gosh, I love that leggy out. Really want to try and capture that leggy out. He really looks like a good dog, just like loyal dog. I'm missing something because it looks like it just goes straight down into here. And I know there's an extra joint in there that I'm not seeing. And then they have these kind of cute knobby knees. Knobby joints. That might not be actually. That's like the elbow, right? Seriously, he looks so much like a dog. But anyway, volumetric drawing, awesome. Can draw almost anything you want, can learn how to break down and understand the world around you and then recreate it on paper. It's really useful for understanding poses and kind of making sense of complicated things that, oh, it's because his shoulder's too high up, that don't otherwise make visual sense to you. Don't think it's really taught often enough. I really kind of wish we started kids with this. I know it's not the fun stuff. It becomes fun, but it's not like immediate fun, you know? It's not how to draw a face in 3 minutes. Like, I get it. This is a hard pill to get my students to swallow because they're when are we going to draw the fun stuff? And it's like, I feel you. I feel you. This is definitely like taking vitamins sometimes. Like, especially learning the basics. When it starts to pay off, then it's fun. But it's so much work until it pays off. And I think it's a worthwhile investment early on. That's why I think we should teach them this when they're young. So, like, by the time they're 16, they can really draw, like, whatever they want to draw. Even, and, like, another thing I love about this is even people who don't think of themselves as artists, like, math and science-minded people often say they're not. No, I'm not really an artist. But, like, because this is very appealing to the mathematical part of the brain, and it's reproducible, you know, you do certain things and you can get similar results time after time, which is really appealing to some folks, myself included, you know. I do think this is a great tool in the toolkit to have. Does it always make for, in my instance, I mean, you know, there's a book series called Force, and Glenn Vilppu also does a lot of these, used to do, or still does, I guess, a lot of these volumetric drawings where he kind of like breaks things down into their subsequent parts. And then you have Bern Hogarth and Bridgman. They do that as well, and they do beautiful drawings. So you know what? I'm not even going to like pretend like, oh, it's not as pretty as, well, it can be as pretty. And a lot of like cubism is really about breaking things down into their individual, most basic forms, and then just rendering them that way. All right, so that is enough chattering. Today we drew 9 animals. Well, we drew 3 animals for a total of 9 total animals. We did 3 horses, and for someone who doesn't draw horses, these aren't terrible horses. That's a sideways horse. We drew 3 lions, and for someone who doesn't draw lions, these are not the worst lions. This is a bad lion. We drew 3 bears, which they were all ferocious bears in the reference, and somehow I turned them all into Winnie the Pooh, which is just the magic of Natto Soup Studio art. So over the course of 4 tutorial videos, we learned how, and I gotta find it amongst all of my figure drawing sketches and Kara sketches and a still life that I did. We went from doing just kind of basic exploratory sketching where we were just trying to draw the basic shapes of these animals without necessarily understanding their anatomy, without necessarily understanding their musculature. We went and we drew a lot of these animals as I'm looking. Really covered a gamut of animals. And then there's a person. We went from drawing and exploring animals as just kind of very basic shapes to exploring the skeletal structure of these animals, to figuring out how to take that skeletal structure and render it volumetrically, to drawing these animals from reference but not on top of our reference, recreating them in our sketchbooks volumetrically, using the skeleton as a base to help us place everything and to just kind of help us capture the pose. So drawing, like any skill, is something that the more you do it, the better you're going to get. Just like the difference between being able to ride a bike and being a bicyclist or a cyclist is practice, training, endurance, exercise. Drawing is practice, training, endurance, exercise, putting that time in, investing in yourself, investing in what you want, and just be real honest about what do you want. What do you want? Do you want to just make money real quick from drawing? That's okay, that's legit. Or do you want to actually improve as an artist, hone your skills, get faster at drawing, and have more flexibility in what you draw? That's also legit. I'm really trying to take the second road. As a comic artist, I draw all kinds of things, and as a teacher, I have to be able to teach people how to draw all kinds of things. So it's worth my time to invest in myself to do these sort of studies. So they don't have to be perfect. You don't have to share them online. You don't have to even like them. Just put the time in, and the more you put in, the more you study different ways of drawing and understanding the world around you, the better you're going to get at art. I 100% believe in that. If you're looking for a friendly art community where you can improve, I have a Discord server, The Paint Box. I'm in it all the time. I am happy to help you guys out. And if you guys believe in what I do here on this channel, if you want to help me continue to do what I do, one of the best ways you can do that is to support me via Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. But if you can't afford to do that, another great way to support the work I do here on this channel is to tell people about it. And don't just wait until there's something that's just uniquely particular to you. If you like a video, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Twitter, share it to your community page if you have one on YouTube, and let other people know about the work that I'm doing over here. The only way this channel can survive and the only way it's worth keeping around is if it actually helps people. And if nobody knows about it, it's not going to help anybody. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, useful, but most of all, inspiring. I hope I've given you guys several things to think about and to take away with you into your own artistic journeys. And I hope to see you guys again really soon. If you're new to my channel, if this is your first video with me, I have a playlist that I highly recommend. It's going to be down in the description below because unfortunately YouTube has taken away my ability to use cards and to use end caps on videos that are marked as for children. And let's be real, learning how to draw animals is something everybody wants to do, so kids will be watching this video too. So please do check the description for relevant tutorials, relevant playlists, and other useful, awesome information that I think you guys will enjoy. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys again really soon. Bye guys!